Hello, welcome to the Healthy Alternatives podcast. I am Dr. Christine Sauer with DocChristine.com. Today's show is a recording of my radio show of the same name. Enjoy! Good afternoon, this is Dr. Christine Sauer, your host of the show Healthy Alternatives, here on 97.5 CIOE FM with livestream on communityradio.ca. Every Thursday at 12 noon Atlantic Standard Time. Thanks for tuning in today. In this show, I will talk, mostly with guests, about all aspects of health, healthcare and wellness, from conventional to alternative and everything in between. My mission for this radio show is to help change people's lives for the better, by informing them about different options to get and stay healthy and well, so they can choose for themselves which option might work in their case. And if you feel you are stuck in a dark place, I want to tell you, don't give up. There is a light at the end of the tunnel for you too. Hello everybody, this is Dr. Christine Sauer here with Jill Kane today on Healthy Alternatives. Jill is a business consultant for health and wellness professionals, specializing in workplace stress and burnout and reducing overwhelm while building your business. Welcome, Jill. I'm very happy to have you on my show.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about this.
Now that's wonderful because that's a very important topic. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you actually started to do what you're doing now.
Sure. So it's been a kind of an evolution. My background is in HR. I was in corporate HR for about 20 years and got into workplace wellness in the last 5 years or so. And it's just always been a passion of mine, health and fitness and wellness. And I've always done something active and something on the side with that, even throughout all of my career working. So I got really interested in workplace wellness when my company decided to implement a wellness program. And I just found it really you could really see the direct impact that the programs would have on people and their attitudes and their moods and their health. And so I just got more and more interested in doing that. So I got certified as a health coach and as a workplace wellness consultant. And today it's kind of evolved to also helping other health coaches and wellness consultants growing their businesses as well.
Now that's a wonderful mix of things. So why are you especially excited about doing what you're doing? Where did you grow up? Where are you living now? And how do you work?
Sure. I've grown up in Massachusetts. I've lived here my whole life. So I have two boys who are 8 and 6 years old. And it's, as you become a parent and you're working, it's just another layer of stress and demands on your time. And there's so many people I saw in the workplace who just are juggling so much and have so much on their plates. And then on top of that, depending on the companies, people come and go and leave, and so the teams are short-staffed and people are just taking on more and more work and more expectations in the workplace. So I feel like really drawn to helping that population, especially dealing with workplace stress and burnout, because it's a real thing that affects lots of people. I think the statistic is like 80% of workers feel stress on the job, and half of them say that they need help managing stress.
I can imagine, because we are all nowadays stressed out, and we just have to look at our Facebook account to get stressed out. Now, tell me a little bit about your personal stress and how you deal with it.
Sure. It's always evolving because some days are better than others. But
we all struggle, and that we need to honor our struggle as we honor our clients' struggles.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's never about trying to be perfect in any sort of way. I think that when it comes to stress, because stress can be good. It can be like a stressful event, like maybe you're getting married, it's a positive event, but the planning is stressful. But then when you go to work, there may be projects you're involved in that you like, but the workload is stressful. So there's a fine line between the like good stress and then the turning into the bad stress, which is like the chronic, ongoing, like just never ending kind of stress, is that eventually takes form in your body and turns into illness and disease. So it's really critical to make sure that you have ways of managing it. So I like to talk about how to minimize like unnecessary stress and kind of, build resiliency to, deal with ongoing stress, like maybe things that you can't avoid, but you can definitely choose, because stress is actually a response to something. So the event isn't stress, it's your response, and you can choose.
Now that's an
another
important
way.
point. Now, if I feel stressed, what can I do? What do you do personally? What do you recommend?
I think in the moment, it's sometimes hard to stop, but I think that breathing is always good. Getting yourself centered and getting into a quiet space, or just taking space. This is something I teach my kids too. Is taking space in their room, so they know their room isn't not like it's a punishment to go to your room. Like you need to take space, and
Right.
they know that's a place they can go for a few minutes to like regroup and just calm down. So that's, I think, a key for adults too, breathing, taking space into, a little quiet area if you need to go for a walk, moving your body, exercise. It's like a key foundational part of everything. Like I think that the more that you move your body and get up out of your office space or sitting at your desk all day, if you just get up and take like a little 5-minute movement break, sometimes that just can reset everything for you. So I think that breathing and moving your body are two key things you can do.
And that's so important. Then from a medical standpoint, stress causes an adrenaline release and a cortisol release and prepares the body for flight and fight. And if we then go and exercise, it burns up the build up hormones.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the change of scenery plus the fact that you're moving your body, you're changing the chemistry and all of those processes that are going on. So you take yourself out of that situation. I haven't had a time where that didn't work. So I think that is a key thing, even if you can't get to the gym or go outside for a walk, like you can go pace around your house or something, like just get yourself moving.
I recommend to people the 3-minute nitric oxide dump, as taught by Dr. Mercola and others, that not only gets you breathing and panting, but it also gets your nitric oxide high and dilates the arteria in your brain and in your heart and increases the circulation all over. And you feel really energetic after that.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun. And maybe I'll just change the, put the link under the video and the podcast so people can have a look at it. It is really amazing how easy it is. You don't need anything but yourself, and it's fast.
Yeah, and I think that's the key too, especially when you're talking about workplace stress, because oftentimes you can't just get up and go for a walk or get out of, if you're in a meeting and you're in a stressful situation, you can't just get up and leave. So there's, other things you can do other than like obviously the physical is going to help a lot. And the nitrate sounds like that would help a lot as well, because you're changing the levels of, air and oxygen and, getting all that good stuff into your system.
Right.
But also too, like, our thoughts are like the biggest source of stress when you think about it.
How do you work on them? Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So we have, I think there's 4 main sources of stress. So environmental, which is like all the air pollution, noise pollution, all of that we really can't control, ourselves too much. The social, which is like our, going to prepare for a job interview, financial stress. So those are another area. Then you've got, physical stress. So things like injuries or aging and illness and stuff like that. Then there's the thoughts. So the thoughts are like the big thing that, are the big source of stress, because it can change. Like, you've seen people who are all all experience a certain situation, and one person will be extremely stressed out by it, and others, it won't be a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's like about changing your thought patterns and your mindset around those stressors can really make a difference, just whether it's affirmations or just kind of reframing and asking yourself, like there's, I think with affirmations, some people like it doesn't help or doesn't resonate with them. Maybe they're resistant to trying it, but another like spin on that I find is making it in the form of a question. So like saying, is that really true? Or, just posing it as a question, because when you ask yourself a question, your brain tries to find an answer. So if you kind of throwing yourself off a little bit so that you are not like thinking that one negative thought and then it spins into another and another and another, you pause yourself and ask a question, and then it puts you on another path, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. And I myself like to use worksheets with actually sentence completion for my clients, which helps them a lot to organize their thoughts, and then a little bit to change the thoughts, the automatic negative thoughts. There, of course, they can do a form of cognitive behavioral techniques that I simplified a little bit, because people nowadays are overwhelmed and have an attention span shorter than a goldfish.
I know, I hear that all the time, and it's amazing that that's really true. I mean, with all the digital information coming at us all the time on our phones and on the internet, all the social media, there's just so much information input coming in all of the time, and you need to kind of protect yourself against all of that and just be able to focus.
Protect ourselves. And I always say Facebook is a source of stress, and LinkedIn and all the social media, I call them asocial media. The fake form of communication via text and messages, and we think it is real, but it isn't.
Yeah, it's amazing because, and I find this too true, like in online business world, is the more that you can actually establish a real relationship and talk to people, the better results you have versus like just posting and, you know what I mean? Like just doing all of that kind of stuff. And then you're looking at what other people are doing on their pictures and judging and making a story up about how great their life must be. And like, it could go down to, really negative plays. One thing.
That's often not true. There's so much.
Yeah.
But when you have somebody on the phone, the modulation of their voice, just the audio impression gives you a completely different feel from just a notice that you don't know how they meant it.
Exactly. Yeah. And even a text, right, or an email, you can read it one way and assume the person felt like annoyed by something you said, but really they didn't. It was just maybe they wrote a really quick email because they were rushing off to do something else. It wasn't
That's a good point. And video has
the added
dimension of seeing facial expressions and some body language. So that's why I like video conferencing a lot. But telephone calls are the second best option.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously with our fast-paced world, it's more difficult to always do in person and video, but I think that the more that you can do that and more you can connect, that's just better for you getting your message across. And, and I think there are statistics too on like the levels of stress connected to how often people are scrolling social media and spending time on there. So like one thing I was going to mention, like, I don't know if other social medias do this, but Facebook has a news feed obliterator. So you can, and I have that installed so that I don't log in and just see everything. It's so easy to start scrolling.
Well,
so now
I didn't know that. So I just ignore it. But
well, that's good. A lot of people can. It's hard, and then it just has a kind of a blank space, and it will have like a really nice quote there instead of all the feed and everybody's stuff. So
that's maybe a good tip for people that have a hard time to focus, because that's another disease of our time. People can't just focus on one thing, they get distracted. Yes, a ding from the phone, a ding from that, and
And I think even in the workplace too, if we bring it back to that, you have your email and all the productivity people and experts out there talk about like, oh, just check your email at 11 and at 2 and that's it. Like if you did that in the office where your boss is emailing you, like, why didn't you respond? You know, you have to keep it open, and then they might be messaging you too. And then you've got your phone, like you're expected to do all of that and to multitask and answer phones. And so when you're doing that lifestyle in the workplace, then you go home, you're not going to be doing something different unless you really take the initiative to do that and implement that for yourself. So like what you were saying, you know, you've got to protect yourself from that. But, you know, in the workplace, I think that it comes, all the workplace wellness initiatives that do well, it usually comes from the fact that the CEO and the executive team are really on board with it and practice what they preach so that employees feel more comfortable actually participating and engaging in those efforts. So
yeah, and that is very important, and I like that you're stressing that. And on the other hand, you will see probably that many people that are stressed and close to burnout have trouble sleeping also. So that's something else that needs to be addressed. And for me, I always go from body, mind, spirit. So I work from supplements to help from mental and spiritual parts. And I think that is important in the workplace too, to stress, really, to emphasize that it's not just a thought, but sometimes our body is so malnourished with junk food that we can't form good thoughts and focus on one thing. So it all goes together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Like all the different segments of wellness, you know, impact one another really. And sleep, something that's very overlooked too. I think that there's statistics on how much sleep we're getting. It's like decreasing every decade. And that really, you know, increases stress, and it increases the impact of the hormones in your body and how well you manage stress too, right? So it's all connected.
And that is a very, very good point. And that is actually a good point to close our video and podcast. But please, before we go, share how can people contact you? How can business contact you if they want to work with you? Or how can a health coach that wants you to help end the overwhelm and grow her business or his business, how can they contact you?
Great. Yes. So you can contact me at my website, which is jill-kane.com.
So that's, spell that, please.
Sure. It's JILL-KANE.com is my website.
Okay.
And then if you're on Facebook, if you're a health coach or in the wellness field and you want help with growing your business, I do weekly trainings in my Facebook group. So that's called Build Your Wellness Empire.
No, that is wonderful. And if you have any questions, I will put the links underneath the video and in the podcast site. And you're also welcome to contact me through my website, which is www.dockristine.com, which is DOCCHRISTINE.com. And thank you very much for being on the podcast, Jill. It was a pleasure to hear about workplace stressors. We all have them. And this ends the video for today. This was Healthy Alternatives. And tune in next week for the next episode. Bye-bye.